Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and today we're doing some Dollar Tree DIYs for your Valentine's Day home decor. So let's get started. For this project, I'm going to be using 3 books, and I got 2 of them from Dollar Tree, and I love that this one is called So This Is Love, but that was just a coincidence. And then I needed some pink in this one, so I'm using this women's devotional Bible that I found at a yard sale a long time ago, and I'm going to be placing that in with this little stack. So now I'm also going to be using some Dollar Tree material and this beautiful white burlap ribbon that I love so much because it's nice and thick, and also this small little 5/8 inch ribbon that has the heart details cut out of it. I think this is so pretty. You can't really see it against the white, but I also found these super pretty styrofoam hearts in white, and then I was going to use this pink flower, but I ended up not using it. And then some lamb's ear scraps that I had on hand. So I first got my books in the order that I wanted them, and I thought the pink was perfect in the middle to give it some prettiness, but also I didn't want to ruin the Bible in case I ever wanted to dismantle this. So I'm going to take my burlap and I'm going to do a crisscross just like you're wrapping a package, and I want the bottom to sit flat, so I'm just going to hot glue that onto the bottom red one and get that all placed down and fastened so that it still sits flat, but it's nice and snug as a bug in a rug. So now I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to first rip off that selvage edge, and then I'll make some strips by just giving a little snip at the end of it and then ripping it down to give it those raw edges and make it super pretty and rustic looking. And then I'll take my lamb's ear scraps and I'm just going to kind of make a little nest at the top, and so that gives me a base to put my ribbon and all of the other perkiness that goes on top. So I'll just add my hot glue and then tuck it under the little cross part of my ribbon so that it stays in place. And you can see the color of my really pretty cabbage rose wasn't really working with the fabric, so that's why I decided to leave that out. And then I'm going to make 2 sweet little bows with my fabric and my 5/8 inch ribbon. Now, because my fabric is pretty short, I'm just going to do 2 sweet little bows and put those together. I added my ribbon on top of my fabric to give it that, kind of layered look. And then I fold it over in thirds, and then I'm going to tie that together with my selvage piece that I pulled off of my fabric and use that as the string to hold it together. And then I'll add that second sweet little bow right on top of that, so it looks like a perky bow. And then I'm going to hot glue that right on top of my lamb's ear. And then I'm going to take my styrofoam hearts and just cut those off of the bouquet. And I'm leaving the stem a little bit long because I want these to kind of stand up toward the back. So I'll tuck them in with some hot glue and then stand them up using that wire. And now we'll have some perky hearts as well. So now to finish off our perky bow, I'm going to take some more of that pretty fabric from Dollar Tree, and I just took some Dollar Tree beads and I'm going to feed those on to both ends. I didn't even have to put a knot there because it was so tight, they didn't even move. And then I just folded it over to make them drape over the side, and I'll tuck that in right under my perky bow and lamb's ear and let that just hang off to the side. Now, I have a pretty large inventory of florals and flowers from everywhere, but mostly from Dollar Tree, and I just couldn't find one that matched that pretty red, pinkish burgundy of that fabric in those stripes. So I just went ahead and added another sweet little bow, but this was a little bit bigger bow from that burlap ribbon, and I used the super light pink one to tie that together, do it in thirds, but just on a larger scale, and then I tied that pink one into another sweet little bow, and I'm just gonna cut the ends at an angle and then attach that towards the back. And I think it turned out even prettier than if I did have flowers and roses on there. And I think it finished off the top and made it nice and full and perfect for this stack of books. So now I'm going to take a cardstock tag and these acrylic paint pens. I'm going to have all of these things, pretty much everything that's in this video, linked in the description box below. Thank you, Whitney, for showing me how to do that. And I was inspired by that first red book that we got from Dollar Tree that said, "So this is love." And so that's what I'm going to write on my tag. And then I'm going to take a little sweet picture of my grandma and grandpa from way back when that I usually have in my bedroom. And I'm going to put that right on the corner of my book stack, and I'll attach my tag, and I'm going to use that piece of selvage that we pulled off of our fabric and attach it to my perky bow so that it's sitting right in front. And here it is all finished, and I'm going to show you the whole vignette when we're done, but I love how this turned out and I hope you guys like it too. So I really think that Dollar Tree is stepping up their sign game, and I really love this filled with love sign. So I decided to kind of replicate it. So I'm going to be using a ball mason jar, and then I found these stickers at the Dollar Tree. Now I wanted to use the pink and red ones, but the size of the pink ones didn't have the same size of the red ones, so I'll use this other package to fill in so that it kind of looks a lot like the picture. So anytime I'm using a mason jar, I want to fill it with lights because that's just the natural thing to do. So I'm going to take a piece of double stick tape that is also from Dollar Tree and put that on the back of the little battery pack piece. And I'm going to show you, I finally had to replace my pen weeding tool that a sweet viewer got me a few years ago. And so I'll have these linked in the description box below as well. But they're not just for weeding, they're also for taking the backing sheet off of adhesives and so forth. So a very helpful tool. And then I'm just going to start applying my hearts to my jar randomly. I started with the pink ones. Now I didn't have as many obviously as what's on the sign, so I'm just going to scatter them throughout, and then once I get my pink ones on there, I'll take my red ones and start kissing those together. And I had more of the red than the pink, so I'm going to fill in those open spaces with those single red hearts as well. And I didn't want to put too many in there because I am going to fill this jar with love, and we'll do that in just a second. So as you can see on my jar, there's a pretty single red rose laying on the side there. So I had a red rose from the Dollar Tree, but I didn't love the leaves that were attached to it. It looked a little too fakey. So just a little tip, if you ever find some leaves that you do like, you can replace the flowers or, replace the leaves on a flower that you want to use. You get what I'm saying. So I'm going to take my red styrofoam hearts from a stem from Dollar Tree, and I put them in my jar, but they were kind of flopping around. So I decided to remedy that with a craft knife, and I'm just going to make a little slice right at the top of the heart. You can't see it, but then I can slide my fairy lights right inside of there, and then that way they were able to kind of stand up and not upside down and all over the place. And then to get them in the right position and fill the jar the way I wanted to, I just used my screwdriver to move that around. And then I'm going to make a messy bow using some 5/8 inch ribbon. All of these are from Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to make a few loops, all the same size, but then I'm going to cut them apart and dovetail the ends. And then I'm just going to start crisscrossing them in different ways. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, or, some kind of pattern that gets them the way they need to be so that they're nice and spread out. But then I'm just going to squish them in the middle, and I used a chenille stem, well in this case a little tinsel stem, to pull those all together, and then I'll cut off that extra stem. And then I took some more of that Dollar Tree ribbon with the little hearts cut out of it, and I'm going to wrap that around the rim of my mason jar lid. And I used my hot glue to do that. And then where they come together, that's where I'm going to put my bow so you can't see that seam. And then once I get that applied, I'm going to take a red adhesive heart and put that on the front. And then I felt like it was just too flat, so I had to go ahead and add some pink and red roses. and I'm just going to cut those down, glue those to the top, and then I'll add some more scrap greenery in between and just glue those in there. Now everything that I glued on here, I didn't touch the sides of my jar, so I'm still able to open it up so that I can turn those lights on and off. And here it is all finished, and I think this is so adorable. I'll show it to you with the lights on. It's a little hard to see, but I have another piece that I'm going to show you. You probably got a little peek of it, and then I'll show you the whole vignette put together all at the same time. But first, I found this decal, and I thought I had every decal the Dollar Tree had, but I found this world map one, and I love it so much. It's got the muted colors, the beiges, and I just think it's super pretty. So I'm going to use 2 Dollar Tree signs from the winter, and I think I got these quite a while ago because, well, I'll show you in a second. So I'm going to first pull off the ribbon from the back, and there were just staples there, and I'm going to be using the back. But in the front, I used my Cricut spatula to take off the little snowman, and usually, well, I don't paint the backs just because I try to conserve my paint, but I do use my Cricut spatula to take off the paper. And look how easy this ended up being. I don't know if it was because it was an older sign and the adhesive got a little weaker, but it couldn't possibly happen on the second one as well, right? But it did. So I was really happy about that, and I had nice clean backsides to work with. So I'm going to use my sanding sponge to get those staple marks out of that wood, and one of them was a little warped, so I kind of turned it over, and then it's going to be a little flatter. You can do, you can just mess with that and see how it works, or if it can make it a little flatter on one side than the other. Then I just took off my bottom part of my map, and I'm going to put the middle edge or the top edge of the bottom part toward the very end or the edge of my piece of wood. Does that make sense? I want my 2 pieces to come together, so they're going to be all the way to the edge so that that can happen. And then I just took some popsicle sticks. This was all I had left of these larger ones, so I need to resupply myself, but I'm going to add some permanent adhesive and then some hot glue and just put those along the back side of that seam so that my 2 pieces of board will stay together. So now you can see that my map is together, but it looks like I have a little frame. So then I'm going to take one of these beaded garlands from the Dollar Tree, and it didn't have enough. I'm going to change this all up, but I was going to use, well, you'll see it in a second, but I'm going to use the little tassel for one side, and then I took some jute twine, and I'm going to feed on those neutral colored beads, and then in between each of those, I'm going to use a small pink Dollar Tree bead, and you guys have seen these little wood beads at the Dollar Tree, and this is really cute, and you still may want to do it. I wanted to bring in a little pop of pink, but once I get it all done, this is really cute, and it could stay this way, but you'll see it kind of goes awry, and I changed this up. But just remember that this is an option. It's not the option I'm going to end up using, but I wanted to show it to you anyway. So I'm going to take some hot glue. I tied a knot at the end of my jute twine so that it would have something to kind of hang on to, and then I just took one of those adhesive felt hearts from the Dollar Tree, and that's what I'm going to use to kind of keep it in place and give it a little more support. And plus there's a little kiss on the back now. So that was going to be my hanger, and then I took my tassel, and then using that extra jute twine that it's attached with, I tied that to one side of my little hanger. And then I glued it down so that it wouldn't, be sticking up or sticking sideways or crooked or anything, and then glued a sweet little bow to the top of that with that 5/8 inch ribbon we used before. So then I went to my Cricut design space, and I printed out or cut out "For God So," and then "The World," and then "Loved" is going to go right in the middle. Now this was where things kind of went awry, and you'll see here I did the middle word "loved" in pink along with John 3:16, and it was super pretty and gave me that little pop of pink that I wanted. And I have a little heart that I'm gonna attach at the bottom that you'll see in a second too. But as soon as I laid down the pink, it just kind of disappeared, And up close, it looks really cute, and it has the pink that I wanted. But my uncle walked in on me crafting, with his little walker. I forgot to tell you guys, that's another update. My 93-year-old uncle has moved in with us, and so we are now taking care of him. And so he comes into my craft room to see what I'm doing. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but so it's just a little sweet thing. But he read it, but he couldn't see loved at all. So that was when I knew that my gut was telling me, yeah, I need to change this. So we'll address that in just a second. So I thought about using my Sharpie paint pen to outline loved, but then I kind of chickened out. So I had to move on until I decided what I wanted to do. So here's where I'm going to be using my little pink wooden heart. And this was from something that I pulled off of a sign or something. It has this sweet little teapot on the back, but by teapot, we're not going to see you. So I just glued that to the bottom of the sign. So at first I tried to take off the vinyl letters with my Cricut spatula, but it didn't work and it was kind of ripping my sign. So I decided to do plan B, which was cut out another loved, and I'm just going to place that right over my pink loved. And then instead of going over it exactly right on top so that you didn't see any of the pink, I thought I would let it be kind of like a little shadow, a little pink kiss of a shadow behind the love of God. But anyway, so you see here, now you can read it. And I did the same thing with the scripture, John 3:16. And then once I had that done, I wasn't all the way happy with how it looked because I think what was messing with me was the pink of the beads. And I just didn't like it. So again, it wasn't the worst, but I just decided to pull it off. And so I have the right to do that. So I pulled all the beads off and decided to just leave it with the jute twine. And sometimes less is more. I'm just making stuff.
What?
Just making stuff.
For God so...
Can you read that one?
For God so... the world...
Well, there's another word right here.
Oh, you're going to put that in there?
No, it's already there. You just can't see it. You have to come closer. Can you read it?
No. Oh, in pink you mean?
Yeah.
So God so loved the world. Right?
Yeah.
Boy,
It's
needs
hard
be
to
a little
see
darker,
that
yeah.
loved, huh?
At a glance, you don't even see it there.
Oh, dang it.
So it's nice.
Thank you. He is just so sweet. And, it used to be my mom who gave me project feedback. And now that she's gone, he's kind of just picked up where she left off. And I love how this turned out now. And I hope you guys like it too. For this next project, I'm using 3 of these sweet little gnomes with the tinsel wrapped all around them. Now, they really look like they could use a spa day because their beards are a little matted and messed up, but I'm going to take some white yarn, some red yarn, and some pink yarn to go with our pink and red theme. This pink yarn is from Dollar Tree. These other 2 I just had in my stash, so I'm going to use those, but I have seen red and white at Dollar Tree. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull off all that tinsel, and I ended up rolling this up because it's a really pretty shade, and I think I have some ornaments that are close to this color, so it's all been put in storage now for Christmas, so maybe I'll be able to find this again next year for the Christmas season. So I'm going to disassemble him and pull off his beard and his nose and the little fringe that goes around his hat. I'm going to take my yarn and stick it inside of the form and give it some hot glue so it stays snug as a bug in a rug. And then I'm going to start wrapping his hat first. So I'm going to use my hot glue because there's a little kind of like a curve at the top or at the bottom of his hat. And so to make that yarn stay in that direction or attached to his hat with that little bumpity bump, I'm going to give it some glue gun encouragement to stay along those lines. And then I can just go at warp speed to wrap the rest of his hat. And I'll do that up and down. Now, I didn't figure it out until later. I'm would rather have those little knobbies cut off. So I'm going to cut on the last one. I did it. So do as I say, not as I do. You know, that's what these tests are for. So you learn as you go. And so I'm just going to wrap his entire hat. And then for the bottom of this one, I'm going to do it in pink. So I have a red hat and a pink body for one, and then a pink hat and a white body for the next one. And then what's the third one? I don't know. A white hat and a red body. I can't remember. You'll see it in a second. But anyway, it took me forever to figure out which, colors to do. I originally was going to put the little fringe at the bottom of this red hat, the little furry fringe that we took off at the beginning. But then it was giving me Santa vibes. So I ended up using another piece to cover that bottom part, and you'll see that in a second. So here's the pink one, and again, you get faster and faster the more you do this with the white body, and then the third one will be the white hat with the red body. So now I'm going to do a major blowout on their beards, and I just used my weeding tool to go through that, kind of like brushing it out, and it looks so much prettier. You'll see it next to the other one in a second. And then I'll put his little nose back. Those are just pom-poms. And here's where I'm going to do the rim of his hat, and I'm using some Dollar Tree heart ribbon. And this is really pretty. I was kind of thrown as to what color to use at the bottom, mainly because of that red hat turning into a Santa hat if I used white. So this one, it's got like an iridescent sheen to it. So it was perfect for the red and the pink and the white, and just kind of blended in for all three of those colors. So now to display my three little gnomes, I'm going to take a stove cover, and I'm using the larger one, and then one of these little dessert cups. They come 3 in a pack. I'm just going to use one. And then this plastic dome that you can find in the garden section during the springtime. I actually saw them just recently, and even through the Christmas season, so you can get those all the time. But one of the questions I always get is about how to remove this sticker, so I'm going to address that as well for everyone. Now I'm using this. I'm not going to have to paint the bottom because you're not going to see this, but just to give it a little raise or make it rise a little bit, I'm just going to use this little cup. You could use something bigger if you wanted, but I'm just using my permanent adhesive and some hot glue to stick that onto the bottom. But they're both white, so I'm not going to paint them. So that's just going to save me a little time. So to take this sticker off, I don't know, it's like some kind of alien space technology glue, and the dome itself is super, super thin. So I'm going to put another dome inside of it just to give me a little bit of oomph so that when I'm taking this off, it's not just caving in the entire time. So I'm just going to peel it off. Now, before everybody says anything, the heat gun doesn't work for this. It's kind of like a plastic label of some sort. So I'm going to pull it off as much as I can with my fingers, and then I'm going to go back in with my scraper, my razor blade, and get off again as much as I can. And then I'm going to do this very carefully too. You don't want to cut yourself when you're trying to get this off, but it's all for the cause. And then I take some acetone and a little piece of, well, in this case, it's a little hand sanitizer sheet, and I'm going to start rubbing. And it takes a while, and it does kind of foggy up that dome. It's shiny normally, so this kind of dulls it, but this is always going to be in the back. So it's hard to see on film here. I'm trying to put my hand behind it so that you can kind of see it, but you'll still want to put this in the back. But that's how I get it off, and I've gotten 70 questions about that, so I thought I would answer it here. So now I'm going to take my scissors and cut off some of the little lip of the bottom of the dome. And again, it's super thin, so this takes, no hard hard work on your scissors, although that wouldn't matter for me because I'm pretty brutal on my scissors. But this way it fits right inside of my little stove cover. And then I'm going to take a shower curtain ring and hot glue that to the top of my dome. Now, I would have normally painted my little black piece that's on there, but it's going to be covered with flowers. In fact, it almost covers up my shower ring holder. So, you know, it's just, I don't have any smaller flowers, but it's fine. It's fine, you know? So I'm just going to start hot gluing those on. Also, I should have closed it up. You know, there's two little vent holes at the top, and some of my hot glue fell into that. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes my brain doesn't work, but do as I say, not as I do. Anyway, so I found these teeny little red flowers, and those were the only ones I could find that, you know, were red, but I gave it a little bit of difference in the size, and I thought it was really pretty. And then I'll add a little bit of scrap greenery on the side. I just put 2 of those little pieces there. So I'm also going to take some leaves. These are the leaves that I really do like, and I'm going to cut those apart. They're in 3s. I put 2 together and then just 1, and I'll tuck those under my roses and just here and there. And then that's done. So now I'm going to place my sweet little gnomes right in there and then pop the top right on. And then I took a styrofoam red heart. I'm going to leave a little extra stem on there so that I can do what I did before. And actually, I ended up pulling the stem out and poking it into the side so it would stand up the way I wanted to. And here they are all together. And I think this is such a sweet vignette. I love how these turned out, and I hope you guys like them too. For this next project, I'm going to be using 4 of these wood hearts, and 3 of them were from this year, but one of them was when things used to be still $1, but it happens to be very close to the same size, so you can't even tell there's a little bit of a difference. So I'm going to take all 4 of my hearts, and I'm going to get that jute twine off of there, and I'm going to fill those holes with some spackle and just use my finger to stick it in there and then wipe it off. And you don't even really have to sand it. It just kind of disappears because the holes are so small. And then once I get those all filled up and they're pretty dry, I'm going to take some white chalk paint and paint both sides actually of my hearts. I'm going to actually paint the backs later on, but I'm painting the front side first, and then eventually I'll paint the back. So we're going to do some buffalo check, and I have this painter's tape. It's a little bit wider than the 1 inch. I think it's probably about 1.5 inch. I'm not sure, but it's just the thicker painter's tape, which was all I had, but I liked it because it was a little bit bigger and made my checks a little bit bigger too. So I liked it a lot. Anyway, I'm just going to put one piece right in the middle, and then I'm going to take another piece and put it right next to it, but that's just going to be a spacer. So then when I put my third piece down, and that one's going to go down securely, I'm going to pull out that middle piece and move on to the other side of the piece that's going to stay down. And I'm just going to keep doing that until I fill the entire heart going vertically with my stripes, and then I'm going to take my different paints. So I'm going to use some celery, some crystal, some blush, and some mauve. And then I'm going to also have my elephant color to add to it for the different shades of whatever color I'm doing. I'll show you that in a second. So I'm first taking my celery, and you do want to make sure that the lines of your tape are pretty pushed down pretty well. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not looking for perfection on this, that's for sure. So I'm just going to paint those stripes, and I gave this just one coat so that you could still kind of see some variation in that paint. Now, I always pull my painter's tape up when the paint is still wet, but you just have to be careful not to smudge it or get it onto the white parts. So you can wait until it's dry. I just always seem to have a little bit of a flaking problem when I do that. And I'll do the same thing with all of those different pretty colors. So once my paint is completely dry, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do the horizontal lines. And I'm just eyeballing these, so I'm going to try and start in the same place on each of my hearts and just do, you know, the one across the very middle, or it's not even in the middle, it's just where I thought it would be a pretty place to start, and then do my spacer and then my next line and so on and so forth. And then I'm going to paint those lines with the same color. Now once I get my horizontal lines done, I'm going to leave that tape on there, and then once it dries, I'm going to cover up again with some more tape on those lighter squares. You'll be able to see it because where the paint went over that first line, the horizontal line, it's going to be a little bit darker, so you'll be able to see where the single coat of paint is, and that will guide you on where to put your final pieces of tape. So now for our third and final coat of paint, I'm going to take that elephant and add it to the base color that we're using. And you just want to kind of go gradually because you can oversaturate it really quickly if you're not too careful. So just go a little bit at a time. And then once you get it all nice and the color that you want, a little bit darker shade, it might not look like it's a big difference when you're first putting it down, but once you take it off and it's dried, it's going to look really pretty. Well, it's not even dried, but you'll see. It's got a big difference. You just can't tell when it's still wet. And then once I get it on there, I'm going to take all of my paint off. And this is the best kind of tape reveal of all time because your buffalo check just comes to life and it's so, so pretty. So now that my hearts are all dry, look how pretty they are. You could just plop these anywhere throughout your house. I think they're so pretty. I'm going to put them in rainbow order, so the pink, green, blue, and purple. And then I'm going to use my Cricut Air Explorer and make a stencil and put the letters LOVE on each one of them. This font is called BFC Chalk Eraser. I'll have it linked in the description box below. But if you want to use these hearts, because pretty much every Dollar Tree has them, the size of the letter is 4.55 inches. So that might help you when you're doing this. So I'm just going to attach my letters to each of the hearts. I first put my transfer tape on top of it and then removed the backing sheet and then put it onto my heart, and then I'll take off that transfer sheet. And then I'm going to do that on all 4 of my hearts. So my sweet friend Bren sent me this texture toolkit, and I use this all the time. And Bren, I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you. She just lost her mom today, so my thoughts and prayers are with you. This was already in my video, and I'm doing my voiceover later, so just know that probably wasn't an accident. Anyway, I'm going to use my ink chalk paint and start daubing this onto my letters, onto my stencil, and then pull that stencil paper off again while it's wet, but that's up to you. And look how pretty and crisp this is. It's so pretty. If you did want perfect lines for your buffalo check, I kind of like the wavy look, or, not perfect. You could use stencil tape and just cut out lines from your Cricut, or even just cutting it probably, and you would get this crisp of a line for your buffalo check if you wanted to go that route. But I'm just going to get this paint on there on all 4 of my letters and then pull it right up so I have the word love on my hearts. So now I'm going to take a white Dollar Tree pool noodle and some 5/8 inch ribbon. It doesn't really matter what kind of ribbon. Well, it kind of does, because I want to make sure that the back is still pretty cute too. But at the same time, I'm attaching my hearts to my pool noodle, but I also want it to be tied on there. I'm going to glue it, but in case that glue lets go of the pool noodle itself, my little ribbon's going to be holding it in place as well. So that'll make sense in a minute. So I'm going to add some glue to my ribbon and then onto my pool noodle, and then make a sweet little bow, and then I'll add some more hot glue on my wood heart and then attach that to the pool noodle. Do you see what I'm saying? And then I'm going to do my second one, and I'll use a little clamp to hold that together. And then in between where the hearts are meeting each other and they're laying on top of each other, I'm going to add some more hot glue to that just to keep it snug as a bug in a rug. So now that I've got them all attached, you see I left a little bit at the top and the bottom of my pool noodle. The top part I'm going to use to attach a sweet little bow using that white burlap fabric again. I'm just going to do that fold over method, and then I have this really pretty pink and white polka dot ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'll do the same thing with that and then just attach those two together using a white chenille stem. And then with that excess chenille stem, I'm not going to cut that off. That's what I'll use to wrap around the top part of my pool noodle. So I also decided to use some of this black and white buffalo check ribbon, and this one I get from Hobby Lobby just because I use so much of it, but Dollar Tree has it as well. And I'm going to add another one of those sweet little bows to the back of this one using that excess chenille stem, and I gave this a little bit longer tails, and I'm going to drape that over that top part of the pool noodle. And I'm always fluffing my bows until the very end. But then I took this styrofoam ball from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to glue that to the top. I was going to cover this, but I thought it was a little sparkly looking. And even though it's just the styrofoam, I thought it was really cute and kind of matched my pool noodle, so I left it as is. So now I want the tails of my bow to not cover my letters, so I'm going to glue those in place and put those to the side and let them dangle and kind of get gathered and look all drapey. But I did notice that there was some glue that looked like it was showing through the white burlap, so I'm going to cover that up with some greenery. So I found these really pretty buckets at the Dollar Tree. I think this was in the springtime, but I love the color of this really sagey, minty green. And so I'm going to use that as our flower pot for this project. And then I'm also going to use some floral styrofoam from the Dollar Tree, and then a broom. Well, it might be a broom. You can actually screw on anything to these handles at the Dollar Tree. They now sell them separately. So I'm going to glue my two pieces of styrofoam together, and then I'll take a screwdriver and get a hole started in the middle, and then push my handle into that styrofoam, and then I'm going to glue that to the bottom of my bucket. And then to weigh it down, I went outside and got a few rocks, and one of them was a little too wide. So another thing you can do to weigh it down is just take your rocks, or your smaller rocks. I have some in a bag, and I'm just going to place that around the edge of that styrofoam so that it keeps it in place and won't fall over. And then I cut off a little bit of the pool noodle at the bottom and then placed it over my tall broom handle, but I didn't really need to cut that off, but it still works out because it's going to be covered in all of this pretty pink flowery goodness. I'm just going to poke those right into the styrofoam and cover that all up. I added some off-white ones and a little bit of greenery. I think these are from Walmart. And then just got that whole bundle of love, and I think it's so pretty. And here it is all finished, and I love this so much. Well, look, it says love, but I think it's so pretty. I have it in a corner, and this is kind of why I wanted that backside to be a little cutie patootie, because you will be able to see that, you know, because it's kind of a centerpiece of sorts. But I just love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you enjoyed all of these love projects, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!